I remember when I was very young being drawn to what New York represented in terms of the music and the art and the culture that was coming out of this place. Now, New York has changed a lot since those days in the 80s and the 90s, but it's still a place that has an incredible energy, and that really resonates as you walk around the city, as you experience the people of New York. I think that's probably the singular thing about shooting on the street that continues to inspire me and fill me with a sense of excitement and passion, and it's addictive. I find myself compelled to go out and shoot almost every day. The thing that most people think about street photography is that you need to be very, very quick to react in a fraction of a second, and actually what it forces you to do is to actually slow down and to anticipate what is approaching, because no one is able to react consistently so quickly to capture these moments. So what we're actually doing is it's like a game of chess. You always try and think several moves ahead, and street photography and walking on the street is really very similar to that. When we're shooting for a client, whether it's photography or video, we're often fairly constrained by the task at hand. It's often a fairly clinical environment. We might be shooting in a studio, we might be shooting with a specific shot list in mind. And what the street allows me to do is just be completely free and unencumbered to move around in a space and just basically follow my mind and my heart, I guess. I'm drawn to what I emotionally feel connected to rather than necessarily what I'm being paid to capture. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I find it's a beautiful balance that offsets sometimes the very, not formulaic, but the quite clinical nature of doing commercial or more standard client work that I get paid for. So I don't really have a specific process for going out to shoot, but I always make sure that I have my camera and a couple of rolls of film with me. I always have my headphones because I tend to actually listen to music quite a lot as I'm walking. I find it gets me into a particular mood. So I'm tending to listen to a lot of jazz as I'm walking around. And the process really is to go out and just be open to what might happen, because some days I shoot not a single frame, and other days I'll go through a couple of rolls of film. I don't know what it is about being in the moment specifically that enables us to be freer to shoot, but some days it happens and some days it doesn't. But I never try and force the process. I always just try and be open to what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling. So when I'm walking down the street, I'm looking for specific things that I know will trigger something in my head, even if I don't see them at that moment. So it could be the way the light is bouncing off of a building and reflecting onto the other side. It could be maybe an interesting piece of street art. It could be a character that's walking towards me that I'm then rapidly trying to see how I can fit them into the environment in an interesting way. It could be something within the environment itself, maybe a chain link fence, maybe a slither of light. Maybe I see something deeper in the background that I know will work with what's about to occur in the foreground. And really what I'm doing is I'm waiting to try and anticipate what I think might happen, even if I don't see it happening at that point in time. And I'll often stop and I'll often wait. And that's simply to see what might enter that small theatre of life that I can see in front of me. Sometimes nothing comes at all. Sometimes nothing happens at all. And other times something will transpire that really is unpredictable. And those are the moments that I think I'm really compelled to try and capture. Sometimes I'll hunt for characters, for people that look interesting in a way that is actually hard to describe. It can be whether they're old or young, male or female, I don't really know, but it's something about people or characters, something like that, that just draw me in and have a quality of something interesting in their face or body language, their demeanour. It's hard to really describe. I'm not a very confrontational person. I do find at times quite difficult to get close to people, particularly to approach them from the front. So if you'll notice, a lot of my shots tend to be from the side. It tends to be when people aren't really noticing me. And when they do notice me, I have a few techniques I use to make them think that I wasn't actually photographing them. And I think that puts both myself and the subject at ease, because people tend to be very wary these days of strangers photographing them, even though so many of us are photographing so many more things and each other. People are still very wary of being photographed by strangers. So I make it a point to always try and do close-up work fairly covertly, and if I'm noticed, I'll tend to smile and I'll tend to interact in a positive way, and hopefully that will lead to a positive outcome. Sometimes I'll see someone, I might approach them, I might smile, I might try and just convey through sort of fairly positive body language that, you know, I mean them no ill will, that I'm a photographer, I've obviously got a camera, and can I take their picture? Oftentimes, if I really see someone of interest that I want to interact with, for instance, if I want to make a portrait on the street, I'll go up and talk to them. I don't tend to have any qualms about doing that, even though I'm probably more of a shy person than anything. I find it quite easy to go up and talk to people when I have the camera in my hand and if I see something interesting about them. I think the thing about New York is that it's quickly disappearing from what we all think of as New York. That's the old buildings, the architecture, the kind of the grime and the fact that it's a little bit chaotic. New York is changing so quickly and becoming a very sanitized place that is largely unaffordable for a lot of people. It's unfortunately losing a lot of what I think drew people to New York in the first place, which is that edge or that grime, the aspect of inherently anything can happen at any moment. It's becoming a lot more homogenized, and it's a very civil place compared to what it used to be. That isn't to say it's unexciting, and it's not to say that the energy is lacking, but it's just a very rapidly changing environment where New York is losing some of that character. Now, what I'm doing is I'm actively searching for some of that character.